Well, welcome back, folks. Today I'm going to begin the lacing of the wheels for the SL125 project. This is the freshly chromed rear rim that I have reviewed previously. That is the return chrome from the chrome shop. So this isn't a chrome review, but rather to begin a discussion of the lacing part of the project. I'm starting with the rear wheel for no particular reason. It doesn't make any difference. I'll lace this, then probably install it, and then come back and lace the front wheel. It's most likely going to be the process I'm going to use. Now today I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing a tutorial or talking about the details of lacing of rims. I did a very thorough and detailed step-by-step YouTube video. Oh boy, that was quite some time ago, probably a year and a half to 2 years ago or so, on how to lace rims. So if you're curious about that and you did not see that video, or you're newer to my channel, check here in the upper right hand corner and you'll see a link to that video on how to lace rims. Just be aware I'm going to use the exact same procedure and methodology here that I used in that video. It'll be an identical process. It's just I'm not going to show all the steps here today like I did then, because that would be a repetition and duplicate. A couple of things I did want to point out. Again, I have the parts laid out here with the left. This is the left side of the rim. That's because of how the rim's labeled. This is not labeled on a rim, it's labeled on a shoulder. This is the sprocket side of the rear wheel hub, which is facing up. Eventually I will turn both of these pieces over. And I do have my new spokes. These are new. I don't know if I talked about these before. These are new aftermarket spokes that I got from the Far East. I think they came from Indonesia, I think. I got a complete set of front 18-inch wheel spokes and rather rear 18-inch wheel spokes and front 21-inch spokes with new nipples for less money, quite a bit less money actually, than I could have had the originals all re-plated, re-zinc plated. Even though the originals were in reasonably good condition, I just bought these new and they were delivered for less money here from the Far East for quite a bit less money than having the others replated. So I just went with new. These are the inner spokes. That's the one I'm going to start with today, with the nipples that go with them. I have the outer spokes separated, as you can see here, and I have them set aside so that there's no potential I could get these two parts confused. Again, you will note that the inner spokes, you can see right there, have less than a 90-degree bend. They set something like that, where the outer spokes will have a longer head and they'll have more of a 90-degree bend like that. And it's important to know the difference and separate your parts out, because it will make a difference when you put the wheel together. I will also be using anti-seize on all the threads for the nipples as I begin to put the wheel together. It will make tightening, and if you have to make adjustments, and certainly later on remove any of the spokes, it will make it a lot easier for you. So I'll use anti-seize when I get to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and lace this rim. I will bring you back probably on the other end of that process when the rim is ready to go, but likely before I go ahead and true it up, because I want to talk a little bit about tuning and truing of the wheel. So we're half an hour, 45 minutes later or so, and I have the wheel all laced. As you can see, it's loose. I tightened up just enough to pull everything together, but certainly not tight. My next step will be to set up on my new wheel truing jig that my good friend Jim gave to me, and I'll set up and we'll begin the process of truing of the wheel. Again, I'm not going to show the entire process because I've talked about that in detail in another video that's out there. Check up here and you'll see that video will be displayed for you, the link. I've been through that before in detail also, but I will give you a little taste of what it's going to look like when I true up this.
Well, it's actually the next morning. I laced the wheel yesterday afternoon and finished my day with getting the wheel laced. It took me 30-40 minutes or so. It's a little rusty. It's been a year and a half or so since I've laced the wheel, so I had to rethink it and get myself kind of back in a groove. But anyway, so it's the next morning. I have the wheel, as you can see, set up in the commercially made wheel stand that my buddy Jim gave me a while back. There are two axles that come with this stand. One you can see here in this tray, and the other one, of course, is through the hub of the wheel. And there are two cones, one on this side and one on the opposite side that you can't see from this perspective, that pinch that hub onto that axle. And that axle is just about the right size to fit through that hub. So I've got everything well secured. There are bearings at this end and the other end that the axle rides in, so it's very smooth when you spin it. Again, I'm not going to take you through all the steps of lacing a wheel. I've covered that in detail as I alluded to before. What I'm going to do first is check for wheel hop, and you can see I've got my dial indicator set up here on the bottom. And what I mean by wheel hop is vertical movement of the wheel this way. So as that wheel goes around, it'll tend to work up and down vertically, and that's called wheel hop. So first I'm going to get the wheel generally in a ballpark. If I can get it below 0.010 of an imperial inch, I'll be satisfied with this. And once I've got that tuned, then I'm going to go and address what they call wobble, which is the side-to-side movement of the wheel on the horizontal plane. So then I'll have to reposition the indicator up to the side to indicate that dimension. Right now, that wheel is within about 42 thousandths. It's actually not bad. All I did is went around and did an initial snug up of the nipples so that none of them are real sloppy loose. And let me zoom in on the indicator here for you. And I'll go around and spin the wheel slowly, and you can see what I'm talking about. Watch the indicator as I bring the pointer to the 0 mark, which is right about there. It's pretty close to 0 right there. And that represents the furthest distance the rim is from the indicator. In other words, the gap is the largest. Now, as I turn this wheel slowly, you'll see the indicator will fluctuate a little bit, up to 20. Keep working our way around. You see there we're right about 40, just below 40 right there. So that means at this point the rim is closest to the indicator. And then as I keep going just a little bit more, you see about 41, 42 thousandths. And then it'll start going back the other way and work its way back to the 0 mark, right about there. So my mission now is to adjust the spokes, as I spoke to in that previous video I alluded to minimize the wheel hop, and then I'll move on to addressing the wobble. And of course I'm going to be doing that off camera. I'll bring you back later. Well, it's probably 45 minutes later, and I have the wheel tuned in the vertical, or the hop, to about 0.010 of an inch, which is about as close as I'm going to get it, I think. I'm not going to spend hours and hours doing this. So let me zoom in here to the dial indicator, and I'll go over and spin the wheel, and you can watch. As I said, I've got it within 10 or 11 thousandths. You can see right there, I got the indicator zeroed out. So I'll just gradually spin the wheel, and you can watch the dial. They go all the way around. It's about as close as I'm going to get it without spending hours and hours and hours fine-tuning it. And it's just, I don't think it's worth that kind of effort. If this was a racing bike, that might be a different conversation. We're right back where we started. So what I'm going to do now is set up and do the
horizontal, or what I call, the wobble. Quite often when you get the hop within a pretty tight tolerance, and 10 thousandths I think is pretty tight. Quite often when you get that hop within a tight tolerance, the wobble will tend to take care of itself. But if not, we'll see. We'll reset up and take a look. It's about 45 minutes later, and I finished truing the wheel in the horizontal plane, that is the wobble. It was about 30 thousandths out when I started. I've got it to about 20 right now, which is about as good as I think I'm going to get without putting a lot more time into it. Now, if this is a racing bike or a high-performance, high-speed machine, I certainly would spend the time, but it would probably take me a couple of hours to tighten it up beyond the 20 thousandths or so that I'm at right now. I thought I'd give you this overhead shot so you can see how I've got it set up, and you can actually see the indicator here. And allow me to bring it around to about the 0 mark, which is right about there. And that's what that blue tape signifies, is the 0 mark for the low spot. And I'll just slowly rotate the wheel, and you can see the indicator. Again, this is imperial, not metric. And most of the time it's within probably 10 thousandths. There's a couple of spots that it varies a bit. Like I said, the total run out is around 20 thousandths of an inch or so. But I'm satisfied at this point right there. You can see it's about 20. And then it'll come back around here to 0 right there. So I'm going to call it good enough at this point. Now I'm going to double check the hop, the wheel hop. That was the first truing that I did to see if I affected that. I might have had some effect on that as I trued up the wobble. So I'll reset up and check the hop just to make sure I'm still within a reasonable range. I expect I probably am, but I'll do any tuning necessary to get things back where it belongs. And then I will go around the wheel and start tightening the spokes equally, because I want to make sure they're all tight, because some are tighter than others, of course. But I'll start with about 1/8 of a turn on the nipples here, and go all the way around 1/8 of a turn, check to see how tight they are, and I will ring them. I'm going to call ring them with the tool. For instance, that spoke is not tight. You hear the difference in sound. Let me rotate it so you can see it. That one's very loose. And you'll start to hear a difference in sound. That's the tightest one so far. And make sure they're all good and tight. I don't want any loose spokes. And I want to do that equally, starting at about 1/8 of a turn, to make sure I don't significantly disrupt the effort I put into turning the wheel. I think once I finish with this wheel, which will probably be in the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'll go ahead and, I think, lace and true the 21-inch front wheel. I know I said originally I probably wasn't going to do it that way, but while I've got my stand out and everything set up and ready to go, I'll true them both, go ahead and mount the tires. Then the next time you'll probably see these wheels will be on the bike itself after I've mounted them. I don't think I'll probably take you through all of that. Here in the next few days or so, I'll get the wheels on the bike so I can get it up on its feet and continue on with some of the remaining assembly that we have to do. That's going to be it for this video today, folks. Any issues, questions, thoughts, drop me a note. Otherwise, as usual, thanks for watching.